So I just want you to keep that in mind as we go through this video, right? This is not about my policy or a policy. This is about a philosophy.
All right, bring it. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, Chesko's right here. I just want to add, because the creator that he's been stitching is a really staunch advocate of learn from your consequences, which is problematic for two reasons. One, it doesn't actually work that well, and two, it is deeply ableist when it comes to neurodivergent populations. In terms of the scientific literature, we already know that punishment really doesn't work very well, especially when compared to things like positive reinforcement, bringing out more helpful behaviors. When it does work for behavioral modification, it is pretty much exclusively to stop a behavior that you don't like from happening, which makes it terrible for academics where all you do is teach someone to stop doing things like turning in papers or continuing to be in school. And when a student fails to meet the guidelines we give, even if those guidelines seemed very clear, that often tells us that there was some mismatch between their needs and their way of communicating and understanding and what we were presenting them. Not a failure on their part because they're dumb or inadequate or lazy or any of those things. In fact, like Chesko, I largely did away with any sort of late penalties on assignments and found that not only did students not abuse this newfound freedom, they actually were able to do better work as a result. The vast majority still turn things in on time or even earlier than they did before, knowing that if they need the extra time for a future assignment, they can take it. And like Chesko, I find that the work submitted tends to be better, meaning less work for me, because reading a higher quality paper or grading an exam with more right answers on it, it's just easier to do than correcting lots and lots of little mistakes. And I get that my approach is not the only approach, and each educator needs to take their teaching philosophy into account and figure out what's going to work best for them and their students. But I would ask every teacher out there to answer one question. Is the policy you're putting in place there because it's how you learned to teach and because you were just told it was the way to do it? Or is it because it's in service of providing the education that you signed up to give when you became an instructor? Because I will say the reflex is often to approach this the same way a lot of parents approach parenting. I'm doing it because it's the way it was done to me.